in the House on this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I understand the next call is a split call. Charles Chauvel, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Labor's actually had a bill in the ballot for a number of months that would substantially achieve the ends that this legislation would, and I know because I wrote it. Well, you know, I know that the junior whip likes to. The junior government whip likes to circulate the myth that I write all members' bills, but you know, she's as is her wont. She's just being too kind. So the reality here is that we've heard all sorts of extraordinary claims from across the House, including from the chair of the Select Committee, that the government's moved with alacrity to deal with this situation. I think members just might like to remember the time frame here. On the 1st of August, John Key said that the Local Electoral Act in its current form of it, that it was literally an ass in this particular case. So what happened? Well, Grant Robertson got up in the House and he sought leave to introduce the members' bill that I mentioned, and lo and behold, the government refused leave for that to occur. So this bill could have been introduced to the House in substantially the same form 2 months ago, but it wasn't, because some petty member on the opposite bench has decided that it had to be done by way of government measure rather than by a members' bill that could have been read and sent off to a select committee. We could probably have the legislation back by now and dealt with. Instead, it's dragged on until now. Later that day, after leave was refused, in what the media described as a surprise announcement, the local government minister said work was already underway and they were making good progress on a government bill. Well, 6 weeks later, David Carter announced on Wednesday that although he didn't have a bill ready, it would be introduced earlier the next month in order to enact the changes by May 2013. And, well, lo and behold, today we have the first reading of this bill. That's this government's alacrity, Mr. Speaker, a very interesting definition of the term. And, sir, I think when an earlier member mentioned that actually the problem here arose not in the term of the previous Labor government, but when those members, or those of them who were here in the previous Parliament, rushed the Auckland Super City legislation through under urgency, that member hit the nail on the head, because that was the legislation that caused this problem. That was the legislation rushed through this House that saw mayoral candidates in our first and hopefully our only super city start to spend the sort of money that political parties in and of themselves spend in an entire general election. Well, of course there was the need to foresee that and to provide for proper regulation when the circumstances were created to allow that situation to arise. But it was not dealt with, and we saw the consequences of that. We saw the fiasco that occurred over the banks and .com financing that other members have mentioned. So not only do I reject what we've heard about the government proceeding with alacrity, but it's absolutely unfair to lay blame for the situation that's arisen at any door other than the previous government, which rushed that super city legislation through without thinking through the consequences of having super city mayoral campaigns that would cost the sort of money that they ended up costing. Sir, I just want to make one or two other points. In conclusion, I think there have been a number of contributions about how this bill might be improved in the Select Committee process. I certainly look forward to that. I think the area of penalties does need a closer look. I think the issue that my colleague Andrew Little raised about whether this deals with the sort of split cheque donation issue also needs careful consideration. And, sir, I think the issue of whether or not overseas donations ought to be permissible in local elections is one that the committee also ought to consider. But, sir, with those concluding words, I do commend the bill to the House. I wish that it could have been before us earlier, but we are at least now being able to make some progress on this vexed issue. I hope we move with true alacrity to restore public confidence in the electoral process.
Call Denise Roach.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Greens will be supporting this bill. It is weak in part